So welcome back to another old fun stuff episode where I go rummaging through the closet and I find relics from my past, and I have a lot of stuff in old totes in the closet. They've been there for many years, stored away, and I've been going through some of them and having crazy nostalgic look backs, and I want to share some of them with you guys. This one is crazy. This one is nuts. There's so much weird stuff here. You know, not common at all. A lot of old artwork, a lot of weird items from the 80s and stuff like that. And where shall I even start? Let's just start off with some trading cards to get something kind of out of the way. I went through and I found these good old-fashioned Robotech cards, and they're a complete set from back in the 80s or early 90s. Very happy to have these. I found these. I was like, oh my god, I forgot about these. But the one thing that tripped me out, I see these, and right next to it was this cassette. It is faded. It is from 1988. This is crazy. If you can see there, it is a cassette I made for the soundtrack to Akira. And I hand drew Kaneda here. Now, why did I do this? What I did is, oh god. What I had to do was, I had the movie on beta, and all the music that I liked, I taped, and off the VCR onto cassette tape. And I had to go through the movie, and I'm like, oh, I like this bit. Obviously the beginning part, when they're riding their motorcycles through the city, that music is so legendary. I'm like, I want to have it. So I made a cassette for it, and I made other cassettes for my friends and gave them to them as presents and said, here's the Akira soundtrack. And they're like, no way. And I'm like, way. It was very, very cool to get this kind of stuff and to make this kind of stuff, because CDs of anime soundtracks were not readily available in 1988. We wanted them to be, but they were also extraordinarily expensive if you were to import them. Maybe like $40 or $50 back then. So I did it the cheap way, and the cheap way worked for me, but that was crazy to see that. What else did I come up with? Let's just show this here. I got a bunch of artwork to go through. This is it seems to be called the Mecha Handbook. I think I drew this in like 1987, and this is just me having some fun drawing mecha. Some were inspired by Gundam, others were inspired by Robotech, and others were inspired by Battletech, if you remember that. And I just sat and drew all that kinds of stuff. And back into the early 90s, I started getting pretty good at mecha designs. I was incorporating all the stuff I liked out of Valkyries and Patlabors and stuff like that into my work. And then I found some old photocopies of comic books that I did back then. This was called, oh boy, Vampire Unit. It's so bad. About a bunch of guys. I would love to read the story again, but it's an alien races attacking, and we have the Vampire Unit with a couple of guys with mecha suits and working for this elite company, and they're trying to destroy the alien onslaught that's coming. And what a crazy imagination! This is funny stuff to see, isn't it? It's really funny stuff to see. But that's what I did with all my time in the 80s and 90s. I just drew comics all the time. I was so inspired by the hobby of anime and comics and video games. I had to get it out somewhere, and that's how I did. Now look at this mofo right here. This Scout Walker. This is something I got in the early 80s, and look at how battle worn this thing is. This thing has seen so many battles in so many backyards. It's not even funny. For whatever my parents paid for this, for me, boy, did they ever get their money's worth out of this. I think this was one of my favorite toys in the 80s. I love the Scout Walker. I remember when I saw it in Return of the Jedi, and I know it was in the Empire running by as well, but in Return it got it was featured a lot more at the end, and it just was so cool. These things were walking through the forest, and I used to have Chewbacca in it, and I'd have these big battles in my backyard and in sand pits and wherever. And I saw this thing and I was like, oh, the memories. I almost wanted to kiss it, but it's covered with probable old dirt and stuff like that. another really cool toy from the 80s. And it's like one of those moments, Christmas morning, I'll never forget it. I think it was 87. It's 86, 87. I think it was 86. And I opened up this package, and there was a small tear. As a boy, I'm like, Jetfire from fucking the Transformers. And this is very battle worn. It's fallen apart over the years. This has got as much use as the Scout Walker did. What's the story with this? This was, okay, the Transformers lineup was out. We had an episode of the Transformers cartoon where they showed this character called Jetfire that was frozen in the ice. And they thawed him out, and it was like this fighter jet that transformed obviously into a robot. And all of the kids at school, all of us, we all fell in love with Jetfire. He was just so cool. And we couldn't wait to see the toy version. Where this confused me, but I was also knowledgeable as a kid. Even in the 80s, I was like, when I saw this in the store, I'm like, wait, that's like a Battleroid. That's a Strike, that's not a Strike Valkyrie, but it was a Strike Valkyrie, but it was from Macross. I was like, there's a robot from Macross, and I knew Macross from watching Robotech back then. I'm like, why are they taking that toy from Japan and making it into a Transformer? They got the licensing. They did it. And they just colored the the Strike armor here red instead of the normal gray. Can I even get this thing back on? Uh-oh. Yeah, I did. This is very old. This is covered with dust. It's missing an arm. It's missing pieces over here. But you know what? This is my Jetfire. And I have so many memories of this. That Christmas morning, I saw Jetfire. I'm like, it was just the best Christmas ever. I think anybody from my generation knows the importance of Jetfire. And it's funny, I was in a toy store, and there was Jetfire. Or I saw online, there's like a Jetfire that looks like Jetfire now, so go figure. I guess Harmony Gold's holding back the rights for the Valkyries or something. Okay, here is something. I worked in a comic book store in 1986 and 87, and a little bit of 88. And we all remember Watchmen. Watchmen was a very important, life-changing comic book where nobody knows about this. And oh my god, look at the price on this thing. It was $25 US back then, $40 Canadian. It's an official DC Watchmen watch from 1987. An official one. And, you know, as a young kid, I kind of scratched the face a little bit. But this, I think this is worth something. I've never really checked out the price. I've always done eBay searches and never really come up with anything. But this is I hate to use the term rare gem, but this is very kind of rare. This is a very unusual item. And I knew that then. I was like, a Watchmen watch, officially released by DC on this life-changing comic? Oh yeah, count me in. I wish I kept it in better shape in a nicer box or whatever, but this is what it is. I found this. I was like, I forgot about this. Some comic books I found in there. Ninja High School. Ninja High School was a very, very important comic book in the 80s. Into the 90s as well. But it was the very first American manga interpretation. It was its own story. It really was its own story. And I adored it back then. I loved it that Americans were doing manga style, and they were doing it really, really well, and they're having a lot of fun with it. Very influenced by Project Echo and every single anime back then, which was only a great thing. But I saw that, I was like, oh, memories. Real memories. Now, this is great. This is really good. Remember 1999? Remember the Phantom Menace? Yes, we all remember that time. The hype, the excitement, a new villain, Darth Maul, double lightsaber. Oh my god. What did we all do? We all ran to the toy stores and bought Darth Mauls. And it's just, how many people have these in their closets? I know I certainly did. I saw them and I was like, oh me. You know, it's funny to see these. We all thought this was going to be the next Darth Vader, and yeah, we thought these would be worth something, and they would be collectible, and we'd really enjoy having them and all that. And I like having them. I think Darth Maul is a really great bad guy. Really great character, really great action sequence in that movie. But nostalgic, isn't it? It's like, can you believe this is, oh my god, nearly 17 years ago? That's nuts, man. Nuts that I went out and bought all the episode 1 toys, and wow. I found this a Mechton RPG book. This was one of the very first. You can see the influence of Gundam at the top there with some of the artwork and all that. But this was a mecha RPG tabletop game. Very, very old school artwork. This must be 1988, 89, somewhere in there for sure. That was funny seeing that. Oh boy. This is grand. This is absolutely nuts. For my science class back in the day, it was science and technology class that I was in, we had to do a paper, write a little thing on some kind of technology we were excited about that may possibly come up one day. And this is from October 1991. And I did an entire paper on the Maddox, the high maneuver personal weapon system. The Maddox is a robot from an anime from 1988, and it was something I did a review on Final Bosses. It's a mecha that I really liked, and here we go. That is so funny. But what's really amazing is I drew it out myself. Obviously I was copying an original picture, but that's my hand-drawn version of it. And let's have a see. I did my whole write-up here on it. This is from 1991, and I'm writing, "The Maddox is a self-contained weapon system for military use. A man can fit in the cockpit and pilot the robot and all the weapon systems. The driver must go through the intensive training first." And it goes on. It's awesome. It's a young boy so excited about possibly, mechas in the future used for military use. And I really blasted it out there. And get this, 25 out of 25 plus 5 bonus points. Good work, John. So it paid off to do that. I wrote a really great detailed thing. I think my science teacher was like, "This guy is fucking nuts. He's either going to destroy the world or he's going to amount to nothing." But being funny, I think he just saw the potential in what I was writing. It's interesting. Why not? Why couldn't there be personal mecha suits, and all that? But I'm not. I already wrote it back in 1991. And here we go. My favorite Batmobile from 1989. That movie with Jack Nicholson. Here we go. This Batmobile is my absolute favorite Batmobile of all time. It is classic. It's just because I grew up with it. It makes sense. Like this funny, silly Batmobile here was a big deal to me in the late 70s, early 80s. I totally enjoyed them a lot. Now, what else have we got here? This is crazy. I found one of my old art books from, oh my god, it must have been 1989? I just want to see if I can find some really fun pictures for you. This is it. This is pretty good. There we go. So logo design. I love this because this really shows what I was into at the time. We got a bit of anime going on. I did a skateboarding scene. I got Blood Bowl going on from Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons going on there. It really kind of shows what I was really, really into. And look at my anime art back then. It's really funny to see that, isn't it? It's really funny to see that. Oh, look at this. It's Yuri. It's the Dirty Pair. For anybody who remembers that anime, I drew them into a Christmas card. And I got an excellent 10 out of 10 on it. I'll take it. Yeah, it's so nuts coming through some of this stuff. It's wild. Oh, there's a really good one in here. Look at this. Look at that. This is, I think, from Borgman. And it's my own creation I did with felts. Back then, I got so good with felts. Got so good with it. That's me from back then. That's my artwork. It's really, really crazy. Oh, you want to see how good I was? I was really into the this is from 1988 actually. I was good for 88. But this is one of the knights from the 5-Star Stories, an old anime manga. Wow. For anybody who wants to see how much of a Megazone fan I was, look at that. And look here. Here's one of the characters from Warhammer I drew as well. Absolutely nuts. Huh, yeah, here you go. Bubblegum Crisis? You can just see everything I was so heavily into. And Appleseed? Oh, a bit of Zero Rhymer going on there for you. I hand drew all these with felts. It's just so crazy, some of this stuff. Oh, wow. Yeah, really. I'll tell you a funny story. My high school art teacher was called Mr. Shimizu, and he was a wonderful, wonderful man. A really short Japanese guy. This sounds funny, but he always wore leather pants. Don't ask me why. We all made fun of him all the time. And I think he knew that he knew I was a very, very good artist. I got bumped up a couple of classes to like grade 11 art when I was in grade 9. They bumped me up that much. But what was so funny is because I was so influenced by anime and Warhammer and all these great art styles, I was drawing them all. And that can have a very strange effect on an older Japanese art school teacher who's never seen such stuff. So I would do a picture like this. This is like my own interpretation of Warhammer. And I gotta tell you guys this story. You'll love this. I told this to Kim so many times. I'd always go up with my art book and you get it marked and he'd talk to you about the pictures that you drew. And I remember bringing up pictures like this. And he'd always turn to me. He's so funny. I love this guy. He'd be like, but he was dead serious. He'd be like, too satanic, John. Too satanic. Always did that. And you know what, in a way, that almost made me draw even more creepier artwork just to really fuck him up. If it was against his morals in some capacity, it was an automatic, oh, I give you a 5 out of 10 for that. But if it was a colorful, happy picture, it was always a 10 out of 10. But if it was anything kind of edgy or, like demons or monsters or anything terrifying like that, deemed as too satanic. So I want to share that story with you guys. I thought that was really a lot of fun. And a few other things to bring up here. I found the Game Player's Encyclopedia to Genesis Games. This is what you would do back then. You didn't have the internet, you would buy a guide, and this is a pretty good guide. It's all in color. Most of those back then were not in color. And I remember using this for quite a few games. There was a couple of tricks in there, for like codes and stuff like that were really, really handy. And a lot of great old Genesis games in here. We're covering Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, Eastwat, Revenge of Shinobi, Rambo 3, Phantasy Star 2, Populous, Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Oh, these are for the Master System. Wonder Boy 3, California Games, and Psycho Fox. Great stuff. It's funny, I found this too. This is another old comic that I used to read back in the day. Did anybody ever read this? Bone? This is the first time I ever read it. Like, I bought it when it first came out, and I really, really liked it. It was kind of a Lords of the Rings adventure style comic. I found that. Some Empire Strikes Back trading cards from, 1980 whatever. I know the movie came out in 81, but I don't know when the cards came out. Maybe the same time. Some Megaforce cars. Does anybody remember Megaforce? Came out in 1982. Horrible movie that I love. I gotta pick that up one day. And just some more silly little comics that I used to do. This is on Southern Cross. Look at this. I just do my own little comics. Can you see that? Yeah. Fun stuff. And what else we got here? Starlog. This is what I used to collect back in the 80s for science fiction movie news. It was a big deal. And I guess I'll end with this one. This is a very, very unusual thing. I don't know if anybody will even know it or even give a fuck, but I'm going to mention it anyways. I think back in 1985 and 86, I got this comic book. It was really creepy. It was really surreal. It was by Marvel Comic Books. It was by an artist called Rick Veitch. And I was a young kid, a big comic book collector, and I went up and I remember look at this first issue. I don't know if you've ever seen the cover for Tide. Here's the very first issue. And I looked at it and I was like, it's like one of 6 of a limited series, and I was like, the last word in superheroics. It's a superhero comic, but it's a really weird superhero comic. It's about it's about a lot of things. It's about man's greed. It's about America versus Russia, about the feelings of that. It's about, I won't call it spirituality, but like the greatness of the universe and everything. It's really nuts. And look at all these these covers. We're all taking off something. So the second one is like a $1 bill type of thing. The next one is all the characters on a calculator. The next one is taking off being a Coca-Cola. The next one is this character saying, "We want you," like Uncle Sam. And the last one is just an American cheeseburger type of thing. And it's kind of a social commentary on greed and all that. And it's an interesting read. Is it a weird read? Yeah, I even remember as a kid, it really creeped me out. And I'm going to sit down and read it again because I'm fascinated. Back in the 80s, I read it a lot. I read it cover to cover over and over and over again, type of thing. So, wow, I've come to the end of that. That was a really long episode. It was just something I wanted to share with you guys. A lot of weird old relics from my past. Hopefully you enjoyed. So, anyways, guys, until next time.